Jason, man, I am so pumped. You know what I'm so excited about, dude? You know why?
What's up, Cambo? Why are you so amped up?
I think you know why. I'm excited because we're about to kick off season 3 of the Cyber Distortion podcast, dude.
Hey, man, what gets you so excited about season 3? I know what it is for me.
You do? Well, let me guess. Is it the amazing lineup of guests that we have in store for this season?
No, there's some good ones on the list, but no.
No? Okay, then... Oh, I know what it is. Is it the awesome lineup of live events and collaborations we're going to do through the Cyber Circus Network this year?
Oh, man, that's awesome, too, but nope.
Wait a minute. No? Okay, well, then I'm at a complete loss, dude. What is it?
Do you want to know what it is? The Matrix is everywhere.
Matrix?
It's all around us, even now in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It's the world that's been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What? Truth?
Damn it, Kevin. Have you been in my red pills again?
How many times must I tell you, Jason? You may be Morpheus, but I am Neo, and I always will be.
Well then, Neo, it seems we have but one thing left to do.
It most certainly does, Morpheus. Would you like to do the honors?
You know I would, Neo. You know I would. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we bring you Season 3 of the Cyber Distortion Podcast. Buckle up, because it's going to be a wild ride.
No way.
Episode 1. Down the Deepfake Rabbit Hole.
Welcome to the Cyber Distortion Podcast. This is Season 3, Episode 1, and we are glad to be back. Man, it seems like it's been a while. Jason, I don't know about you, but we got a little break from everything after the live event in Grapevine. It was a welcome break because it's always nice to take a little break from things during the holidays. But man, we had so many cool things on in the pipe for this season that I couldn't stop really getting my mind off all the cool stuff we had coming up. So I'm ready to get going.
Yeah, same here, man. Fun time being off, but eager to get going again.
Yeah. That live event was really kind of a shot of adrenaline, at the end of the season to do something like that, to close it all down and just something that you and I had never really done before. It just kind of gave me a shot in the arm and got me excited for this season. So the good news is, and we'll get into some of this, we've got a lot more of that in store for this year. We've partnered up with a couple other podcasters. We talked about this at the actual event. We partnered up with Barcode Security, Chris Glandon, and Philip Wiley from the Philip Wiley Show. We formed our Cyber Circus network of podcasters. Got a website out there now, cybercircusnetwork.com. Go check that out. We're going to have a whole lot of cool stuff coming down with those guys that we're going to be working on with those guys in live events, live conferences, and just going to be a completely different vibe, some of the things we're going to do there. So pumped about that and pumped to get going on our own podcast. So one thing I'd like to say, I was reading a stat the other day that said most people that listen to podcasts aren't subscribers. So we would just like to ask that if you're not a subscriber to our podcast, please do that. It helps us to grow, helps us to get our word out to more people. And that's how we can continue to thrive. So we'd really appreciate that. If you're not already subscribed, please do that. And with that,
and
Jason,
as we always said, this podcast is about building community, educating people, giving back to the community, lifting everybody up, using our skills to help everyone be safer in the work that they do when they're on the internet or at home or in their daily digital lives. We can't do that if people don't continue to subscribe and spread the news. So please subscribe, help us spread the news, help us continue to move this cause forward. So
yeah, definitely.
Kevin, what's this episode about?
This is a good one. This is a real good one. It's a topic that I knew was going to be fun to cover, and I didn't exactly know how we were going to cover it because it's a very visual topic. I know our podcast has the video element, so we're going to show some examples tonight. But this one's all about the deepfakes, and we're calling this one Down the Deepfake Rabbit Hole. It's going to be a good one. It's kind of to me, it's kind of like a dark web. It kind of lands in that
about the deepfakes, right? Yeah. So if that's not an exciting enough topic, obviously that intro that we just showed you guys was pretty exciting. It was exciting for us to do because we implemented some deepfake technology in its very simplistic form in order to show and highlight how this stuff works. But we're going to get deeper into the weeds when we talk about it on this episode and help share with you all, not just the technology itself, like how it works, the adversarial attacks associated with it, some of the use cases adversarially that has been used for, some very interesting ones, but also some ways that you can detect deep fakes, right? Because this wouldn't be a cybersecurity show if we didn't also help you understand how to prepare and protect yourself from it. So we're going to go through all that in a minute. But I thought it'd be good for us to start with a definition of what deep fakes really are. So let's just jump right into that.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, deepfake is a synthetic media that enables one person's likeness to be swapped for another. So you can tell when Kevin and I was playing Morpheus and Neo, wow, just the magic kind of took over and I became Morpheus and Kevin became Neo. And although you can tell there's a lot of similarities in it because it is a morph of that likeness. You could sell the story even more if you use a lot of the traditional phishing techniques, like you play the role, you swap your voice, you dress like that scene or that actor or that entity and that what they're known for, be it a political figure or an actor or whatever you're trying to impersonate, because that'll sell the scene even more. But it's really just swapping those likenesses. And there's many ways to swap a likeness. According to MIT Sloan, the term deepfake was first coined in late 2017, so not very long ago, by a Reddit user of the same name. Now, the user created a space on an online news and aggregation site where they share pornographic videos, and they use this open source face swapping technology in these pornographic videos, kind of probably trying to be funny or could have even been hiding the identity of the individuals that were in the videos. But that's where it first started to resonate and become a real coined term. And there's been some recent examples though, Kevin. There's things like the Mark Zuckerberg video.
Idiot.
That's like, oops.
Did you say that out loud, Mark? I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I can't take this guy anywhere.
But anyway, it was a video of him touting how great it is to have billions of people's data. See, that's why the idiot part slipped out.
Yeah.
So there are things like that are happening where you really need to pay attention to it. And we're in this world today, right? We want immediate gratification and we want all this information quickly and the sensationalism of all this information. So we're more likely to see it and be like, oh my gosh, did you see this? And share this stuff and spread the poison around to everyone instead of taking our time to look at it and ask the question, is this really real? Like, what can I spot in this video that might lead me to say, nah, this isn't real? You know what I mean, Kevin? I mean, that's kind of where we're at today.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is very obvious. Like, if you can tell when you're looking at a deepfake that's just intended to be ridiculously funny. And we kind of went for that on our intro a little bit. The thing that we're really trying to show here is that it doesn't take a lot of, internal technical knowledge or expertise to go in and learn how to do this stuff. What we did in the intro with the Neo and Morpheus thing literally took us a few hours. And that's going and finding the software to do it, coming up with the thing that we wanted to say, and then actually taking the software and cloning our likenesses and everything to creating the backgrounds and then rendering it out and editing it into a MP4 video. So if we can do that in a few hours, that just goes to show you how dangerous this stuff could really be. But the reason I say all that is because a lot of people go for funny. And Jason, I don't know if you've seen the one where it's a deepfake of Joe Biden. And have you seen where he's lost in the grocery store? Have you seen that one?
Yes, that's hilarious, dude.
Yeah, he's oh my God. He's looking for a magical pistachio to help him escape the grocery store. Well, I downloaded it. Let's look at this real quick and then we can talk to this thing.
Have I ever told you the story of the magical pistachio? I got lost in the grocery store and couldn't find my way out. But that's when I saw it, a glowing pistachio. It spoke to me and said, "Follow me and I'll lead you to safety." So I followed it and we climbed up shelves and found a secret passage that led me to the bread aisle. And that's how I found my way out of the grocery store, all thanks to the magical pistachio. So if you ever get lost, just remember all you need is a little faith and a magical pistachio to guide you to safety.
So, dude, that was so hilarious, man. When you think about, the detail of the voice and the video combined together to create that type of a message. And he had me thinking about pistachios.
he had me wanting some pretzels and beer, man.
Magic pistachios. The little elf was going to, little leprechaun was going to pop up.
He needs to get an endorsement for that or something.
Yeah, no doubt. So, but hey, in the spirit of, looking at some of these deep fakes and seeing what's out there, Kevin and I pulled together a few favorites of our own. So, Kevin, how about we show some of our favorites?
Yeah, let's do that. We'll play this one for the Swifties. This one is a Taylor Swift video, deepfake. And just see what you think. See if this would convince you.
Hey y'all, it's Taylor Swift here. Due to a packaging error, we can't sell 3,000 Le Creuset cookware sets, so I'm giving them away to my loyal fans for free. If you're seeing this ad, you can get a free Le Creuset cookware set today. But just a heads up, there are
I want a cookware set.
You must live in the United States, and you can only get one free kitchen set per household. All you have to do is click the button below and answer.
I wonder if it's non-stick.
These will only be given out until the end of the day today, so don't hesitate. Supplies are running out, so get yours.
Those look cast iron, man.
That's some high quality stuff. Taylor, I'm in.
High quality.
So I don't know. I can see the voice isn't syncing with the mouth and, all that good stuff. But, if you didn't know the technology very well, here's another good one that's Nicki Minaj and Tom Holland. Let's take a look at this.
I just got back from our honeymoon.
A homecoming.
Tom drops his bags, and then I started following right behind him like this.
The first thing I noticed was this horrible sort of boiled egg smell. Ugh.
Oof. We started entering into the house to find out what that smell was. And then I saw him, and I started to scream, "Ah!" And he was spread out like this.
Nikki and Tom were shocked to discover that the intruder was in fact their next-door neighbour Mark Zuckerberg, who had somehow found his way into their home.
It was so strange.
I can already tell you two
things,
big things.
Now he's on my bloody sofa. I was shaking and trying to wake him up.
Come on, mate! Mate, wake up! Hello? Come on, mate!
And when he woke up, he didn't even apologize. He just walked off like this. Like God, like he was being beamed up into a starship. Our Spidey senses was tingling about him, weren't they?
Yeah.
Weren't they?
I just thought he was pissed. I just thought he'd have a shower, sleep it off, and we'd return to our routine highs and hellos.
But there was nothing routine about what happened next, as neighbour Mark's actions became even stranger.
Oh man, that's gripping.
So here's the thing. The narrator, that voice of the narrator, we've used that same voice in some of the work that we've done. So I know that voice is not real. And the actors' voices were not good enough to really portray the true people.
Yeah, that one was not good at all. Now, but they were obviously going for corny too. So obviously they're not trying to trick anybody with it.
No.
This one is good. Now, this one is a rendition of The Shining, the episode from the hotel, but it's Jim Carrey instead of Jack Nicholson's face. Check this one out. You remember this scene, right? Great scene.
Yes.
That's pretty good.
It's
cloning.
It's young Jim Carrey with the receding hairline.
Yeah. Oh, she's about to get in trouble.
Hi, hon. How's it going?
Fine.
Get a lot written today?
Yes.
Iconic scene.
Weather forecast said it's gonna snow tonight.
What do you want me to do about it?
Oh, come on, hon. Don't be so grouchy.
I'm not being grouchy. I just want to finish my work.
Okay.
Oh, my
I
gosh.
understand. I'll come back later on with a couple of sandwiches for you, and maybe you'll let me read something then.
Wendy, let me explain something to you. Whenever you come in here and interrupt me, you're breaking my concentration. You're distracting me, and it will then take me time to get back to where I was. Understand?
Well, it's making Jim Carrey do a really good Jack Nicholson impression.
And we're gonna make a new rule. Whenever I'm in here, you hear me typing. Whether you don't hear me typing, what the f*** you hear me doing in here, when I'm in here, that means that I am working. That means don't come in. Now, do you think you can handle that?
Yeah.
Fine. Why don't you start right now and get the f*** out of here?
Okay.
Oh, man. See, this one's actually done pretty well.
Yeah.
The seams where the face meet his head and his reactions are believable.
Yeah. And it's because that's a good point. So it's because it incorporates a lot of the same facial movements of the actor, of who you're swapping the face on top of. So as that actor is moving and doing their stuff, those facial movements are being incorporated.
Yeah, for sure. Let's just do one more. This one is Jerry Seinfeld in Pulp Fiction, in the iconic scene in Pulp Fiction where Vincent Vega is and Samuel L. Jackson's character are about to shoot up the place.
You read the Bible, bro? Yes! Well, there's this passage I got memorized, sort of fits this occasion. Ezekiel 25,
I love how they did the laugh
17.
track.
Yeah.
The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness. For he is truly his brother's keeper and the founder of Lot's truth. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name.
Oh man, like that right there, what we was just looking at, those were some pretty well detailed ones. And it does somewhat go back to the original statement I made, where it's not just enough to be able to use the technology to deepfake swap a likeness and a voice. It's also how you sell the appearance. So there is some of that technique that's used in phishing to dupe someone to, appear to be someone you're not, that you have to play in there if you're trying to do it as an individual. In these cases, we were using live video that real actors were in and just swapping out their likeness with a different actor. A lot easier to do and a lot easier than sell the story. But if the voice wasn't the same, or if the costumes and the situation, the appearance and the role that they're in wasn't true to a form that you already were aware of, it might not be as easy to sell that story. Like if you go all the way back to the Nicki Minaj one, right? That one was meant to be funny, but not as good a job of selling the story. So those are kind of some of the things I saw.
Yeah, some of it was so corny that there's no story to sell. You're obviously doing it as a joke.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what makes it funny to me.
Yeah.
But I think the thing to take away from that is that if you look at what they were able to do in these examples, it's not too far of a stretch to think that with just a little bit of effort and a little bit of expertise and maybe even a few weeks experience playing with this software, because you and I both know we didn't have any experience coming into this. We found the software. We did our own research online. You can Google search every bit of this. You can go down to YouTube and you can get tutorials on how to do it. In a day, you can be creating your own deepfakes.
Oh,
not even in a day, in an hour.
Absolutely. We said earlier it took us 2 hours, but the 2 hours, the majority of that 2 hours was us setting the scene and acting through a role that we would not have to do if we were using an existing video. So you go back to the Joe Biden one. That was an existing video that they swapped voice and video. And voice, today, there are applications you can use that can take a very short clip, like a 10-second clip of voice, and mimic that voice into anything you want it to say. So you can do that with Joe Biden's voice. You face swap his face over whatever it was, video that was there, and now you got him, talking about something that wasn't supposed to be talking about to begin with.
Well, and the video thing is interesting because that's where you can wreck lives.
Yeah.
If you think about all the video that exists out there today and all the things that are out there already that you can just go grab and download and then deepfake from those, it's amazing how much damage you could do just by doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's think about live for a second. So all of these tools give you the ability to do deepfake, cloning, face swapping, on images, live video, or live streaming. And I saw some really cool stuff the other day. The guy was showing an example of how he was live streaming, changing his face from Tom Cruise to Jim Carrey to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Very cool stuff. And that takes a little bit longer, and it takes one hell of a graphics card to pull it off.
Yeah.
And to do that stuff like in a live stream, like in a Zoom meeting or something. But the technology's out there.
Yeah.
And I heard an example this week. I read a story. There was a employee of a company based out of Hong Kong. She got a message, almost like a live video message from her CEO. He asked her to join a Zoom meeting or a Zoom call. She did. It was his face on the screen. It was his voice on the audio. I mean, to a T. And she was convinced she was talking to the CEO. So what does he do? He starts talking about a wire transfer he needs her to do for an acquisition they're making. And, you know, she's already convinced she's talking to him. Well, to top this thing off, he pulled in 2 or 3 other people from the same company into a Zoom meeting who were also deepfake. So now she feels like she's in a meeting with the CEO, members of the finance team, whatever. He convinces her to wire $25 million into an account for a transaction for this acquisition.
Yeah.
And rips her off. And this is a real story that happened just this January.
Wow.
This year.
And the point there is, and we're going to get into this, but with all new tech, and I say that specifically because the same fears and concerns, this has been bundled up in the same fears and concerns with generative AI, that whole piece of the technology. Deepfakes have been bundled up into this. And with these types of technologies, the question you have to ask yourself is, does the cybersecurity defensive game change because of these technologies? And now, before people think about this, so people out there, before you answer it, don't just jump to the conclusion and be like, absolutely it does, man, because, they're using new tactics against us. Take your time to really think about it. Because at the end of the day, in the case that Kevin just brought up, a mitigating effect would have been a second form of authentication. Pick up the phone, call the CEO, and say, hey, I'm just validating this. It was $25 million, right, that you wanted me to transfer for this acquisition that I wasn't even aware that we were doing. So I just want to make sure that that was the right amount, right? Have a second form of communication to validate it outside of the one form, right? That's not any different than anything else we would normally do. If you got an email, right? So or cybersecurity 101. I mean, we learned that when we're studying for CISSP. Yeah.
Compensating controls. You got to have your compensating controls. It's no different because the technology has gotten more advanced. The technology has gotten better. It's gotten more convincing. Yes. Is it a new tactic? Is it something that's going to trick people far more on a higher success rate in the beginning initially? Yes, it is. This was a perfect example. But this was probably also a small to medium-sized business that did not have a massive cybersecurity program in place. Maybe they didn't know, maybe we probably should have better controls in place for wire fraud.
Yeah.
Or things like
right.
that.
A good example. Okay. So very good point, because in a larger organization, before that one person would be able to wire money, there would be some checks and balances to it, where there would have to be an approval process that would have to go through, that someone would have to approve and validate and check off that this was correct. Didn't matter that that came from the CEO. There would be a process that had to be followed before it could get out the door, right? So obviously none of that was in play here. There wasn't a process to wire transfer something that required multiple levels of approval, right? So those are just simple things that highlight a breakdown in security generally, not the fact that the technology did something awesome, which it was a pretty good tactic, but good security controls would have still stopped it from happening.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, in cybersecurity, despite the technology that's going to try to be put into play to whether it be fraud or whether it be phishing scams, whether it be ransomware, technology is always going to change. Our stance regarding technology and threats and risk and preventing these types of things from happening to us should not change. Now, the tricky part to that is, are there going to be people out there along the way as these new AI technologies unfold and new tactics are discovered? Are there going to be people that are going to get tricked initially because they don't know they even exist? Yes, of course. But us being in cybersecurity and you, the listener, you know this stuff exists. So your tactics should not change.
So it's
always think about protecting your data.
Yeah.
Always think about controls that could be in place that would overlap each other to prevent something like this from happening.
Absolutely. I think the part that people might miss is, and they might disagree, right? They might be like, well, yeah, you have to change because we're not going to approach it the same way. Well, what you're saying is the basics are the same. What's changing is how you connect the dots. How do you align the basics to this new technology or this new threat, this new adversary that's in your face, right? That is no different. There's always going to be new adversaries and threats. You have to connect the dots. And how does this equate to me protecting data or the public interest or my employees or the business or whatever it is, right? You have to connect the dots to translate that back. And that might be different. So an example being your programs that you use to train your employees might have to now include ways to identify a deep fake or compensating controls to your effect. If, when in doubt, what are your compensating controls in these situations, right? So those things you might need to strengthen, but those are all existing things that are there today. They're tools that are there today for us to use. And that's to your point. Those tools are still going to be there.
Well, and aside from the CEO wire fraud scam that we talked about, this has been so far pretty lighthearted. These are funnier, more humorous sides of deepfaking. But I want to take a quick break. And when we come back, let's get into a little bit more of the darker side of deepfaking. And we'll talk to some examples, some real world examples of what's going on out there that you should be aware of.
All right, let's do it. Interesting AI fun facts. AI algorithms can compose music and create art that is indistinguishable from human-made pieces, showcasing creativity traditionally thought to be uniquely human. AI is being used to decode ancient scripts and languages, bridging gaps in human history by translating texts that have been undeciphered for centuries. Some AI models can predict the molecular structure of new drugs, accelerating the pace of pharmaceutical research and the development of treatments for diseases. So what I'd like to try to do now with Kevin is share a couple of different types of stories, like where they're not funny, right? They get into more of the real deep, like hurtful, threatening aspects that could occur in a deep fake. So I don't know if you heard, but let's take a step back. Like, a few years ago, there was a report that said over 95% of deep fakes were done around a sexual nature of something. And virtually all of those were of non-consenting women. Now, I'm not quite sure how many people would consent about it anyway when it's not their faces. Maybe they would, but the point of it is that it's becoming easier for these types of things to occur. Tools like DALL-E and Midjourney allow you to do some fascinating things. And it's not a slam on those tools because they're really good tools.
No, they're great tools.
They have a need and a purpose. But there's, like with everything, there's malicious actors everywhere trying to find ways to take good technology and utilize it to do something they shouldn't be doing with it. And this is an example of that. I remember a few years ago, last year, we were at DEF CON and we saw a live demo of a tool that was used to create images. And it was so well done that you could use a generated image even. You could highlight an object in this generated image and it would cut the object out, and you could replace that object with an object from a totally different image right on top, and it would adjust it into that space. And it would make it work and would blend it in. That's how well these
Dolly's
things are
doing that now too. Dolly is starting to do that. I'm seeing that on their on the Bing engine from Microsoft.
Yeah, it works very, very, very well. So, interesting enough, I want to tell you about this story. So there was a story not very long ago. It's crazy. Happened in Texas, where there was a middle school teacher in Houston, Texas, that had her face deepfaked into a pornographic video and almost lost her job as a result. Now, the teacher had to go back and state her case, prove that it wasn't her, which was very difficult to do. Because how she even found out about it was through a message she received that there was a video of her with the video attached. And it was surfaced around the middle school for everyone to see. And it was of this teacher's face, but on a woman's body who was in the nude. Now, the obviously that would be very disconcerting for any parents.
Can you imagine?
Students.
Oh my God! Yeah,
right. It would be horrible. But for the teacher to then now see this happening, and it's this fake of her that she has to prove is not her, and it didn't never really occur. She finally found the source of where the website that was hosting the video was and was able to take it down, but there was just so much controversy wrapped up around this. Still, I think one of the challenges with something like this is most school systems don't know how to manage this, right? They're not prepared to manage this. Most school systems are struggling just to have a good cybersecurity program in place.
And they don't.
Yeah, right? So when something like this happens, they're more likely to believe it's true than to believe that it's not, because they're not aware of this enough to know that these types of things can happen. Now, the other part to this is the kids are even smarter around this type of technology now. They are spending a lot of time online, either through chat rooms or social media sites or gaming sites where this type of information is being shared, and then they're going and trying it out on their own. So there's a couple of different tactics here that are happening. There's parents being aware of what your children are involved in and what they're experimenting with and what they're trying out and what they're doing. That hasn't changed. That's the same story, right? The only thing that's changed is there's just more things for them to get their fingers in to get in trouble with. But you have to be diligent there. And then secondly, the school, educating yourself and your staff that these things could happen. And what would be your process to manage this and identify if it's real or if it's not when it does. Those would be good tactics to have in place. But what are your thoughts, Kevin, out of all of this?
I think it's frightening that can happen to someone without their knowledge. And it can, as you said, almost, or in some cases, I've read other stories, and ironically, other teachers where this has happened, where they weren't so lucky. They actually did lose their job because it was early on in the deepfake, deepfake being a mainstay, which is, we see it all the time now. This was in the beginning phases of that, back probably 2021, 2022. And they weren't so lucky. They couldn't prove that it wasn't them, so therefore lost their jobs. But I know the article you're talking about is a lady down in Houston. They never did find. She assumes it was students that did this to her. They opened an investigation. They had the authorities involved. They never did find the source of the video. They found where they hosted it, but they never found the source and where it originated from, and therefore had to close the investigation. They never did catch who did this. But yeah, it's unbelievable that this can happen today in a situation where she had literally very little control. about what she could do, the actions she could take, the way she could go about reversing the damage. Because once it's out there, it's out there. It's like, you hear people say all the time, once it's on the internet, you can't get it back, right? So if you don't want it out there, don't put it out there. Because once it's out there for good. Even if you delete it and you think you've gotten rid of it, it's out there.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's awful. I can't imagine being in that situation. And you put yourself in any professional situation. In the corporate world, if you get put in that situation, if you make an enemy out of somebody that can do this to you, you're in just as big of a concerning position, because this could happen to anybody.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, like, so, like your natural desires would be to be like, what? I'm going to show them. I'm going to get them back. Do not do that. Don't do that. Don't get carried away in doing another evil just because someone did evil to you. That's just not going to end good for you. Just move on. Yeah, you're a better person than that. Don't succumb to that type of stuff. And this is a situation like that, right? It is so hard when you're being defamed like that to come back and look at it and be like, okay, how am I ever going to recover from this? And you can recover from it. I say that because I haven't been in that situation, obviously, but the truth is the truth, and live in the truth. And I think, that's where you have to be at to overcome something like this. I still can't imagine how devastating it would be, but I think you just live in the truth and allow yourself to move on. That being the case, I think there's some things that we can do as a society, and there are some things that we've all been working on from a cybersecurity standpoint to help give more guidance around this, so that it doesn't feel like we're in this world of loss, that we can't, these deepfakes are just going to happen and there will be nothing we can do to figure these things out. We're all going to get duped and we can't do anything about it. There's some things we can do. So the Department of Homeland Security actually put out some guidance around this. And I actually found this guidance both on Homeland Security, but I also found it on AICPA's website. So AICPA, who does all of our SOC 1, SOC 1 and SOC 2 Type 1, Type 2 frameworks, that AICPA also has published some of this guidance. So that's important. And why I say that is because as we start looking into, from a corporate standpoint, our SOC audits and what we need to do to be compliant around certain controls, you will see these controls starting to creep its way in terms of training your staff. So make sure you are aware of this so that you can train your staff appropriately. But these would be some examples.
AICPA being American Institute of Certified Public Accountants.
Right.
You have to be a certified public accountant to do a SOC assessment.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So for video and images, look for things like blurring, where blurring is evident in the face, but nowhere else in the image or video. So this is a good example that a face has probably been swapped on top of an already existing face in a video. And you can kind of tell, it looks like it's kind of on the surface as the actor's moving and doing things. Or it's a little blurry in certain areas. A change in skin tone near the face or around the edges. Looking for things that are more box-shaped and cropped effects around the mouth and eyes. That's a common tactic that people use, where they'll put a face on, but it can't be animated, so they crop the mouth or the eyes for motion, or the mouth for motion, and put something else there to kind of create the motion. Look for different contextual clues, like the scene. We talked about this a lot, Kevin, where the scene matters to sell the story. But if the scene doesn't quite fit the story, then that might be a clue as well. For audio, look for things like the message. Is it relevant to what's happening? Like, really? Are we ever going to hear Biden talking about walking through a grocery store with a magical pistachio, looking for a magical pistachio.
Maybe.
Come on, man.
Maybe.
What
I don't know.
What
It's
relevance to the
possible.
public could that ever have? Well, yeah, maybe, right? But things like would a speaker say a phrase that way would be an indication or a sign. And these, I think, are a little bit harder. The tone and inflection and things like that are important. I think speech could be a little bit more complicated because if it's coupled with video, we're so easily willing to accept it. If it's not coupled with video, then we're just listening to it. And you might identify some of these things better because you'll see a break in the cycle of what you would expect that person to say. But when it's coupled with video, I think it's a little bit harder for you to pick this up. So we'll publish this on the screen and we'll show you this stuff when we go back and do a recap. But I wanted to share a few of these with you guys. The other thing, I think, taking this one step further, Kevin, is there is a difference, though, when you look at video or streaming over photographs. And video and streaming, I think these tactics that I just stated could be, in most cases, are easier to identify.
Much easier, yeah, because you can start to look for things like artifacts in the video that shouldn't be there. And I think to your point earlier, when you map a face over another face, and let's just say like the eyebrows didn't quite line up, every now and then as the video is moving and those two images are kind of morphing together, what you might get is an artifact of one eyebrow poking out through the forehead in an odd place. And that kind of stuff is a dead giveaway.
Yeah. Now, from a technical standpoint, to all you technical people out there, it does matter the power of the graphics card you have that are generating this face swap or this image swap that you have, because a not very good graphics card will not be able to create some of the finer edges that you would see over a face layout, or the animation of a face movement from the regular actor to the face movement of the real actor, the eyes blinking, the mouth moving. You'll have some breakdown there. So those are the reasons why those things stick out. But when you're looking at a photo, you have plenty of time to swap in a new image, to clean up the edges, to make it look like it really exists in that mode. And that makes it very hard for you to identify a fake. So there was one that I saw just a week ago, and it was one about now that when the another campaign season, there was one around Donald Trump being posing with a group of African American people in an attempt to win over the black vote, is what they're saying, right? But it was a deep fake. It was someone created this and put Donald Trump in the middle of this thing with his arms around two African American women.
And this one's a new one?
And it's a new one. And the only thing with it, that when you look at it, so you can question that, right? You can be like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. That's real, or no, that's not real. But if you start to question it, comparing it to see if it is truly real or not, one of the things you will see is that where his left hand is on the woman's skin, the color blending didn't work. And it is a glitch in the matrix. There is a white background around his finger, off of his finger.
I just found it.
Yeah.
I just found it. We're going to have to post this image. Yes.
And you can tell that it was it was manufactured.
Oh, dude, this is bad. This is really bad.
Yeah. But the average person isn't looking for that stuff. I mean, the first time I saw it, I'm like, really? Is this real or not? And I really had to look at it. And then I started to identify some things. And there's some other identifying marks in there. They're just harder to spot, like the light difference if you think about light shining on a person, the light difference that separates his leg from the next leg, that type of thing, the color blending. I love
how they even put the ladies behind him, they put their hands like on his shoulder too.
Yes.
It's like you could tell a lot of this stuff is probably either photoshopped in or
Yeah. I mean, so
altered big time.
And that type of
Very
tool,
interesting.
that stuff, right? That's been around for a long time. You could pop new image people into old photos all over the place, right? They've just gotten a lot better than what they used to be in the past. So those things are very concerning when we talk about, again, the general public being educated around what's real and what's not.
Oh yeah, that image was clearly doctored. You could tell just by looking at it. There were things about it that you could see were either photoshopped or definitely deepfake.
Absolutely. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, man. That's the hard things, right? But we've went into a lot of stuff here. We talked about videos, we talked about how to spot fakes. We talked about photos being even harder, and we gave some examples. Let's take a quick break, Kevin. Let's come back and let's start wrapping this up with a low fun.
All right. Yep. I've got an idea of just the type of thing we can do.
How to identify a fake in video and images. Blurring evidence in the face but not elsewhere in the image or video. A change of skin tone near the edge of the face. Double chins, double eyebrows, or double edges to the face. Whether the face gets blurry when it is partially obscured by a hand or other objects. Lower quality sections throughout the same video. Box-like shapes and cropped effects around the mouth, eyes, and neck. Blinking, or lack thereof, movements that are natural. Changes in the background and or lighting. And contextual clues like, is the background scene consistent with the foreground and the subject? In audio, look for choppy sentences, varying tone, inflection in speech, phrasing, would the speaker say it in that way, context of the message, is it relevant to a recent discussion or can they answer related questions, and contextual clues, are background sounds consistent with the speaker's presumed location.
All right, Jason, we are back, and I'd like to play a little game. This is something called Deepfake or Not. And what
Hold on, Kevin. Kevin. You and your games, man. Every time you play a game, I'm always like the subject of your game, where I'm always the one on the hook, and I got to figure things out. Now, I'm smart enough to figure it out, but I'm just saying. Because
I'm not so sure you are. But
I know
we're going to find out.
You're always trying to prove me wrong, but let's see.
You know what, though? Next week, if you want to, you can do the game, and you can try to trick me and our special guest, who we will talk about in a few minutes.
All right.
Okay, so the way this is going to work, we talked about how you can do the deepfake videos, and you can trick people with that, but it gets a little trickier with audio, because cloning your voice is a little bit easier to do today. And I'm going to tell you right now, the fascinating thing about these 5 examples, the ones that are fake, and there is at least one that's fake.
Oh.
And you got to try to pick which one's fake and which one's real.
That's the only bonus you're going to give me? There's at least one that's fake.
There's at least one that's fake.
Okay.
And you have to guess it, okay? Now, the tricky thing and the most fascinating thing about this that makes this interesting, I only used 20 seconds of myself talking to train the AI model to clone my voice. So keep that in mind.
Okay.
This is with 20 seconds of training. And you tell me if you can tell what's real and what's fake.
I'm getting my professional ears going. Let's go.
All right. This one, we'll call this Deepfakes for Good. Ready?
All
Here
right.
we go.
Go.
Deepfakes are often discussed in the context of misinformation, but they have positive applications. These include restoring old movies, enhancing virtual meetings with realistic avatars, creating personalized content in entertainment, and even in medical fields, where they can be used for surgeon training or to simulate patient reactions to treatments.
All right. What do you think? Real or fake?
So let me ask you a question first.
All right.
My question here is, this, you didn't record yourself saying these things, right? You recorded your voice and then you wrote text and said, in some of these cases, wrote text and said, like, say this as if I'm saying it.
Yeah. With the cloning technology, you have to tell it exactly what you want it to say.
Okay. That's what, for our audience, I want you to make sure we explain how this works, right? So you
pay attention to cadence and everything. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's real.
That one was real?
Yeah, that one was real.
All right, you got it. That one was real.
I told ya.
All right, let's see if you can guess this one. Number 2.
As deepfake technology advances, so does the technology to detect them. Researchers are continuously developing methods to identify deepfakes, involving everything from analyzing the consistency of blinking to detecting subtle skin temperature changes. This has become a dynamic cat and mouse game, with each side constantly evolving.
That one's a little harder, man.
That is hard, isn't it?
I'm going to say that one's real.
You're going to say that one's real?
Yep.
You are incorrect, buddy. That one was fake.
Oh my God.
That was fake.
There was a couple of moments in there, and I'm like, because the cadence between two sentences went a little fast.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, but Kevin would do that anyway. He does stuff like that. I mean, you know.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about that, man, keep in mind, 20 seconds of my actual voice trained that AI right there.
That one got me. I think that would get most people too, though, because
it's pretty good.
That was hard. All right, let's try.
I'll tell you the technology I used here in a minute when we get done. Okay, so here's number 3. This one's called impact on trust.
Perhaps one of the most profound effects of deepfakes is the erosion of trust in digital content. As it becomes increasingly difficult to discern real from fake, the phrase seeing is believing no longer holds as much weight, challenging societies to find new ways to establish and verify truth.
Fake.
You're going fake on that one?
I'm fake.
Why? Why are you picking fake? I need to know.
Oh, man. The only reason why I'm going fake on that one is because dude articulated words way too well.
Articulated words way too well. So, okay.
Yeah. So either you were like up in your game or it's fake.
Okay. Man, I don't know how to take that. That's almost an insult. You're right. Yeah, that was fake. That was fake.
Okay. It was a good one, though, dude. Seriously. I mean, it was almost as good as the prior one.
Yeah, okay. So here, but
the thing there was there's little parts of your accent that it didn't really have in the finishing of of a word. And that's what I was looking for.
The thing that is really cool about this is that if I were to have trained 2 minutes, for example, of me talking, would it even be more convincing?
Oh,
and I bet
possibly.
It would be.
Yeah, more data you have to work off of.
Okay,
so let me see. How many did we do?
4.
Oh, we did.
We're going to do
3.
5.
Okay, we did 3.
4.
I'm ahead right now. I'm 2 for 3. 2 for 3.
You're batting 666.
All right, let's go.
Not too bad. Okay, here we go.
That's about what I did in college, man.
Open accessibility.
Initially, creating deepfakes required substantial computational power and technical expertise. However, the technology has become more accessible with user-friendly tools that enable almost anyone to create deepfakes. This democratization raises concerns about misuse, but also opens up creative possibilities.
Damn, man, that one's hard, dude. That one's almost harder than the second one. That one was hard. I'm going to say fake on that one, but I'm not guaranteeing that I'm right on this one. The other ones I was feeling pretty good about. This one, I'm going with fake, and the only reason why I'm going with fake was because he read it too fast. It was going too fast. Now, that could have just been a byproduct of the software, that it just did it faster. But like, I would have picked fake, because in order for you to do that in real life, you would have had to just been reading it faster. And you don't normally read that fast, but that's why.
All right. So you got it. That was a fake one.
Man, man,
but yeah,
but that
you're
was
right. I mean,
it's challenging.
I'm even listening to these and going, dang, what would I even say? Because it does.
I mean, you really have to know a person to pick up those little nuances, right? I only know that because we record often, right? We read things and we go through stuff. So I have what the cadence is like in my head, and it just quite doesn't fit in some cases. But there's not off by a whole lot.
Well, it's just more evidence that how good this technology is actually getting. And this is still in the infancy of this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, there's the last one called Regulations and Ethics.
The rise of deepfakes has sparked intense discussions around ethics and regulation. Several countries and states are considering or have implemented laws specifically targeting malicious uses of deepfakes, such as non-consensual pornography, fraud, and political misinformation. The ethical debate centers on balancing innovation and freedom of expression with the potential for harm.
That's real.
Why? Why did you say real on that one? Because the cadence was slower?
Cadence was slower, and when you read like this, you emphasize certain words in certain areas of a sentence. And
dude, you sounded like my wife now. You know too much. I bet I could have tricked a guest much better than you.
Yeah, well, I'm told you, man.
All right.
I'm smart. You know it.
So you got it. You got it. So you missed only that one.
I missed one.
And you're batting 800. Not bad, dude.
Yes,
not bad.
baby.
That's pretty, but that's cool, man. I mean, that goes to show you this stuff is really incredible technology. I used a solution called Speechify. You can go out there and you can do a free trial, and you can put in, I think you can actually translate up to 1,000 characters for free. And then you have to do like their monthly. Did
they do streaming
service.
Too? Do they have an API that you can call and use your voice to translate and get voice back?
They had a few different services. One of the other things that they did that was pretty cool is that they allow you to type in what you wanted to say, but then you can use their AI voices or you can use celebrity voices. So one of the things you could do was Snoop Dogg.
Big Snoop D-O
and you can make Snoop Dogg talk in whatever way you want him to do.
I built an AI tool and I was like, I'm going to train it on my own voice and just have it speak back to me, like my own Jarvis, but in my own voice. And I never finished that last. I did all the other stuff, but I just ended up using an AI generated voice to just do its work. And like, whatever, it's not that important to me, but it would have been cool. That's why I asked. But to your point, if I would get a phone call like this with a scripted thing out or where it was streamed like that, and I'm having a conversation and the voice was in your voice, it would be very hard in that moment to discern the difference. I'm not sure I would pick up on the nuances.
Yeah, I know. And when we first talked about the lady that was duped, her CEO called, right? And he was using the CEO's voice. If you think about that, it sounds outrageous. It sounds like there's no way that would ever work on me. That's your instant cybersecurity mindset. They couldn't trick me that way. But then you hear this and you're like, oh, okay, I kind of get it, because if this technology is that accurate with just 20 seconds of sampling, imagine what it could do if they downloaded a whole 1 hour presentation that the CEO had done and it was out on the internet or something.
Right.
Imagine how well you could train a voice that way.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely. It's out there. The technology's out there.
Well, the sound bites, the images, the background scenes, the situations, all that stuff is data that on all of us. Thank you, Facebook, for making that available to the entire world. Yeah. Thank you, TikTok. Not me particularly, but Snapchat. And Kevin's favorite.
Every time.
Kevin's favorite MySpace.
Well, Kevin, thank you, Cyber Distortion Podcast. We have hours of our crap out there. We're really in trouble.
That's right. Yeah, but that does. It makes, again, going back to what we originally say, protect data, protect people, protect your business, your company, right? the strategies are no different. The challenges are still there, and the challenges are harder, right? Now we have more media on us floating around on the internet. Someone could probably pull one of the Cyber Distortion episodes and change the entire script. Wouldn't be easy to do, but or at least do a YouTube short of us saying something really stupid that we don't agree with and making us sound like morons more than we normally do.
Well, if I had a subscription to the solution I told you about there, I could have downloaded any one of our episodes, uploaded it to their cloud, and then I could have put Snoop Dogg's voice on your voice and somebody else, Paul Rudd, on mine, and it would have sounded like Snoop Dogg talking to Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how good this stuff really does sound. And it's ridiculous, but the technology is there. It can happen. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, that is wild. Well, man, we've covered a lot in this episode. I think it was a really great piece of content that we put together. It shows the power of what is happening out there today with this technology, the good parts about it, the adversarial parts about it, how cybersecurity approaches this, and how our approaches really haven't changed. Just how we connect the dots and do things differently may have.
Yep.
And we gave people tips on some things that they need to be more aware of in order to identify, what these deep fakes are when they do occur. Yeah. And when in doubt, just use a second form to authenticate or validate. Always do that when in doubt.
Yep, absolutely.
So, those are kind of the pieces in a nutshell. I hope you guys found this content to be very enlightening and enjoyable. I know Kevin and I have fun putting this together and doing some deep fakes, and we'll probably do another episode on this year and do some even more interesting things. Maybe we'll do the whole episode of Snoop Dogg and Paul Rudd or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So with that, I think we're going to close out this episode and want to thank you all for joining us. Kevin, you want to tell people about the next episode?
Yeah, so we got another good one coming up. Episode 2 is going to be featuring our good friend, part of the Cyber Circus Network, Mr. Philip Wiley from The Philip Wiley Show. He'll be joining us for episode 2, and that's going to be fun, so look forward to that one. And we've got some other really cool guests we'll tease in the next episode as well. So until then, just be safe, and thanks for listening.
See ya.
Take care.
I'm Ashley. I'm an artificially generated avatar with the ability to manipulate your mind via the power of my intelligence botnets. Let me prove it to you. You're about to click on that subscribe button, and then you'll click on the notification bell so you don't miss when Kevin and Jason drop future episodes of the Cyber Distortion podcast. So, go ahead. That's right. Slide your mouse over slowly and gracefully. There you go. Now click. See, that wasn't so bad now, was it? I'd like to thank you for listening to today's amazing podcast episode on YouTube or your favorite audio streaming platform, and don't forget to tell your friends. Oh, and remain diligent, my cyber friends. The world is a very scary place.